Great. Welcome back for our next session. Once again, another session I'm looking forward to. You'll find this as a theme with me as we go out throughout today about, I'm looking forward pretty much to all of these sessions. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Sally Howells, who's the chair of the University of East Anglia Council and independent board advisor on the DigiLab, which we just heard about from our earlier presentation. This is about the importance of digital transformation in government. So Sally, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to talk this morning. It's on my favourite subject, digital transformation in government. Of course, digital has been a game changer for many industries and for all of us. How we lead our lives, what we do when we go to work, and in fact, how we work when we stay at home. But many have felt that digital has had less of an impact on the public sector and public services, and that adaptation to digital has taken longer, is too painful, and is costing more than it should do. And actually, I'm going to go back a little time, which is different for digital, but it was really the 2008 economic recession that increased the pressure on our government to use technology better, to put more services online, and to spend less by being bolder in its transformation. And I have seen an important journey since 2010 in the UK government, learning how to transform a complex organisation with governance structures that are more designed to minimise risk and defend against change. Now, I've had a lengthy executive and more recently non-executive career, but I've had the privilege to lead, to audit, to review transformations, and also to support other leaders when they're in the firing line. And I know how hard it is to do transformation well. I have worked alongside some tremendously talented people in the UK public sector who are overcoming these challenges and moving the public service forward. So in my presentation this morning, I want to focus on what government has achieved in digital transformation, looking at it actually at a more strategic level and through a glass that is definitely half full. So I'm going to take you back to 2010. It was the end of a decade of some very big IT projects in government, a number of high-profile failures. The government was spending around 16 billion a year on technology and was finding it rather hard to keep pace with the skills it needs with new technologies and actually with its own requirements that just kept changing. So steps were taken in 2010 to get this level of spend under control. Now, spend controls are a really blunt instrument for government to deploy, but the Cabinet Office introduced additional layers of technical scrutiny on all department IT projects, and this involved a lot of saying no. IT projects were stopped. None of these controls were popular, as you can imagine, but actually what it did do was give visibility about what technology was being used, how departments were approaching these technology projects, and it also gave a good insight into duplications, overlaps, and also different prices from IT suppliers across government. So this certainly put a brake on spend, but more importantly, it created a very different environment for the government to move forward with digital transformation. So by 2012, the emphasis developed into the digital transformation of citizen-facing services. The Government Digital Service was created to give space and authority, and also actually the expectation of different digital thinking when it comes to the design of public services. Senior civil servants and ministers all went over to Silicon Valley to see what the digital future could be. And this gave different perspectives, not just to where technology was going, but different business models, and also fundamentally different paradigms for managing people, which really challenged what the civil service had viewed to be best practice. They prioritised 25 public services to undergo digital redesign, and the Government Digital Service proactively intervened in the development of these, disrupting in a way and to an extent that had not been previously experienced. 3 years later, 15 of those 25 services had gone live, a following 5 followed shortly thereafter, And all of these actually gave citizens a very different experience. People could apply for and manage services online. But all of those involved in this really recognised that citizens were interacting with 20 services quite differently, but none of this had really transformed how government was operating. So in 2017, the government pushed forward and it published its transformation strategy. Now, this committed to deliver transformation in a much more deep way, much more than cost reduction and putting a few services online. It acknowledged the need to transform how departments and agencies operated, putting data and technology at the forefront. In 2017, we had over £70 billion had been approved to be invested in 40 major transformation programs over 5 years and across 12 departments. All of these were going well beyond the automation of status quo, but it was a recognition that transformation does cost. But there was a problem, and that was that government wanted still to deliver these transformations through the construct of a programme, and yet many of the standards and guidance for this really stemmed from how government went about the major infrastructure programmes across government. And these were acting as a real constraint and brake on getting transformations underway. So 2018, the Cabinet Office published the 7 lenses of transformation. And this created the permission for transformations to be implemented differently. Not really about technology, the major difference was the attitude to risk. Government's guidance for major infrastructure programs places a lot of emphasis on the early identification and mitigation of risk. In stark contrast, the Cabinet Office made it clear that you can't transform unless you take risk. So business cases have to be high risk, and management must be prepared and able to operate with a higher risk appetite. Let me just give you a quick glimpse through these 7 lenses. The first one says that you must have a clear vision. Easily said, hard to do. But the importance of this is that you can't transform an organisation if your vision is so ambiguous, it means different things to different people. The best transformations that I've seen involve leadership being willing to make some quite hard choices very early on, and they avoid an ambiguous vision just to keep everybody happy. Being clear from the start means that when the going gets tough, it's easier to keep people aligned. But it's also important that leadership can start to work in an early stage with all of those who find it hard to accept the case for change, or perhaps they're worried about the organisational personal implications of transformation. The second lens is all about design and very familiar to the community around the Digit Lab. And it's something that the civil servants have actually learnt a lot about. In good transformations, design starts very early, even when you're setting policy, or even before. And it stays with you right to the end. Enterprise, data, solution, even security architects are now more recognised and valued in government, and there are never enough of them to go around. The third lens is the nature of planning. This warns of the danger of expecting too much detail or certainty on benefits and the timing of these too early in a programme. The 7 lenses encourages leadership to roadmap rather than plan, to expect cycles of testing, measurement, learning and adapting, rather than getting themselves locked into fixed or unrealistic budgets and timescales. I've already mentioned the importance of leadership and decisiveness in setting a clear vision, and leadership is very much the 4th lens. Because delivering a transformation means motivating a large network of people to do things differently, and these will not always be under the direct management of the person who sits at the top of the transformation programme. Executive management can't just sit to the side and wait for a transformation programme to complete and to deliver the benefits to them. They are integral to the decisions, key to the communications and the effectiveness of leadership that will pull the benefits through. Citizens often require services from different parts of government to be joined up. And this is one of the difficult things that government transformations have to do, and that is to deliver services between departments, across boundaries, and often under different accountabilities. So it's critical that leaders are good at collaborating, and this is the fifth lens. Collaboration is not just a willingness to work nicely together, it is a hard commitment to joint decision-making, backed by the ability to share outcomes and services with leaders of other organisations. And this requires design and planning to be highly sophisticated on both sides, so that teams from different programmes and departments can sequence and prioritise their work. And whilst complex, the teams that I have seen that have invested in collaboration from a very early stage deliver better outcomes. Lens 6, accountability, being clear who's responsible for what. The traditional programme paradigm in government recommends one senior responsible owner accountable for a programme from cradle to grave. One person in charge, no confusion. But for transformations, there are other models that are starting to emerge. Some have found it beneficial to change the SRO as the transformation progresses, not because of failure, but just because you need different experiences and different personalities. Models of shared accountability between SROs and executive sponsors can also be a good way to keep the BAU and the operational state and all of the changes in lockstep. And people are experimenting with this at the moment. The final lens, 7, people, mentioned by several presenters already. Government transformations are demanding on civil servants and frontline workers, and for many of them, the culture that they're used to and the training that they're given has not prepared them well. But effective leadership can do a lot to help, and I see this succeeding the best where executive management really engages with their people in transforming the organisation and not relying on a programme to do it for them. So bringing this to a close. NAO produced a report about digital transformation in 2021, and it said, despite 25 years of government strategies and countless attempts to deliver digital business change successfully, the findings of this report show a consistent pattern of underperformance. That's what the NAO found, and there will be very strong evidence for their conclusion. But I happen to think that's rather a harsh judgment, and I wonder if they were, in fact, comparing performance against a standard which is unachievable. Because since 2010, I have seen many in government learn a lot about how to exploit data and digital to transform operations and deliver services differently. It is learning how to manage higher risk appetites, and the 7 lenses are certainly helping the civil servants to grasp transformation in a meaningful way. But there is another step that's needed, in my opinion, as I don't believe that running transformations through programs that are separate to the operational condition of that organisation will help government get to the next level of maturity. Getting accountability to work well within transformation programs is a very wicked problem indeed. The transformation community shouldn't be a subset of the civil service called on to come in and deal with the transformation program. The transformation community has to be the whole of the civil service, more comfortable with digital and data, continuous change, and adapting quickly to an increasingly complex and volatile world. So from spend controls to digital citizen-facing services to more fundamental transformation delivered through programs, what comes next is a really important question, perhaps something to debate a little later on.